This day and time. What happened today, years ago.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something pretty unique, I think. We're connecting three big historical moments.
Right, and the kicker is they all happened on the same date, June 26th.
Exactly, but, in totally different centuries. Different fields, too. We've got military stuff, politics, massive engineering. It's quite a mix.
It really is. We've dug into some fascinating sources, everything from old military reports to speech transcripts and, huge construction plans.
And our mission today, really, is to pull out this thread that connects them all. It's this idea of humanity's drive to rise, this relentless ambition. And there's a great Vietnamese phrase for it, "Cat vọng vien lim."
That's a perfect way to put it. It's that fundamental human thing, isn't it? Pushing boundaries, whether they're physical limits, political ones.
Or even just psychological barriers.
Exactly. And that's what's so cool. We've got this military innovation, then this incredibly powerful speech, and finally, literally building something that scrapes the sky.
They seem so different on the surface.
Totally. But we're going to show you how they're all windows, really, into what pushes us forward as people. They're not just dates in a history book.
Okay, let's dive in. Where should we start? The earliest one.
Yeah, let's jump back, way back to 1794.
Right, the French Revolution. A really intense time. We're talking the Reign of Terror here.
Oh, absolutely. And you've got General Jourdan under immense pressure. He has to capture Charleroi.
And failure meant, well, it wasn't pretty. Commanders weren't just getting fired.
No, they were losing their heads, literally. The guillotine was working overtime, so the stakes couldn't be higher.
So in that kind of pressure cooker, what happens? They find some unexpected edge.
Well, this is where it gets really interesting and kind of unexpected. It's a political push, actually not a military one, that brings in this new tech.
Okay, what was it?
A hydrogen balloon called l'entrepreneur.
A balloon?
Yeah.
In 1794 for military use.
Yeah. Sounds almost sci-fi for the time, doesn't it? But it was real. A reconnaissance balloon.
Wow. Okay, so tell us about this thing. How did it work? Was it like a hot air balloon?
No, hydrogen. So more advanced in a way. It was static, though, tethered to the ground. And it needed a two-person crew.
Two people. Who were they?
You had a dedicated balloonist, sort of the pilot, and then a reconnaissance officer to do the actual observing.
And how did they get it to the battle? Did they, inflate it on site?
Get this, they had to tow it. By hand.
You're kidding.
Nope. For 30 miles. Can you imagine lugging this giant balloon across the countryside to get to the front lines at the Battle of Fleurus?
That's dedication. Or desperation, maybe.
Probably a bit of both. But once they got it up, maybe 500 meters or so.
That's pretty high up.
High enough to see a lot. Captain Coutel and General Morlot were up there. They could see the Austrian troop movements from 5 different directions. Revolutionary stuff.
An eye in the sky. Before that was even a phrase.
Yeah.
So how'd they get the information down? Radio wasn't exactly a thing yet.
No, definitely not. They dropped messages, written on paper.
Just drop them down.
Yep. And they also used semaphore flags. So it was real-time intel, basically, feeding directly into battlefield decisions from above. First time ever, really.
That must have completely freaked out the Austrians.
Oh, undoubtedly. Imagine seeing this thing floating above the battlefield, watching your every move. Huge psychological impact, along with the actual intelligence advantage, of course.
And it worked.
It did. It definitely contributed to the French victory. They took Charleroi, and then that led to capturing the Austrian Netherlands, a major win.
So you'd think the military would be all over this, right? We need more balloons.
Well, you'd think so. The politicians were certainly crowing about its success, but a lot of the generals, they were skeptical.
Skeptical. After it helped win a major battle. Why?
Well, you know how military establishments can be sometimes? Maybe seemed impractical, vulnerable, hard to manage long-term. Hard to say exactly.
Resistance to new tech. A classic story.
It is. And interestingly, the whole balloon corps, the Arasteers, they were disbanded just 5 years later in 1799.
Only 5 years. Wow.
Yeah, a really short lifespan. But, despite that, you can't deny it. Fleurus, 1794. That was the birth of military aviation. It proved the concept. That ambition to get above the battlefield, it started right there.
Okay, so from conquering the sky for war, let's jump forward. Big jump, 1963.
Right. Different kind of ambition now, not about technology really, but about words. the power of rhetoric.
And we're in Berlin, a city literally cut in two.
Yeah, the wall had gone up just 2 years before, in 61. West Berlin felt completely isolated, like this little island of freedom, as they called it.
And the people there were losing hope, losing faith that the West, especially America, still had their back.
Definitely. Morale was low, they felt abandoned. And that's the stage John F. Kennedy walks onto.
For the Ich bin ein Berliner speech. So iconic. But I read somewhere he actually had a different kind of speech planned initially.
That's right. He arrived with a message that was more about reconciliation, trying to calm tensions.
And he saw the wall.
Exactly. Seeing it firsthand, the stark reality of it. It apparently hit him hard. His whole planned message kind of went out the window.
And he improvised.
Largely, yeah. It became this incredibly passionate, defiant, emotionally charged address. You can hear it in the recordings.
And that line, "Let them come to Berlin," he said it multiple times.
He did. It was such a direct challenge, a dare almost, to the Soviets and the East Germans. And then the climax.
Ich bin ein Berliner.
I am a Berliner. It just instantly created this bond, global solidarity focused on this one besieged city. Powerful, powerful stuff.
But you have to talk about the myth, the jelly donut thing.
Oh God, yeah. Let's definitely clear that up.
Please, does Ich bin ein Berliner actually mean I am a jelly donut?
No, absolutely not. It's completely wrong. In that context, saying I'm Berliner was grammatically correct for expressing solidarity, for identifying yourself with the people of Berlin.
So everyone understood exactly what he meant.
Everyone, nobody listening thought he was talking about pastries. In fact, people in Berlin usually call that kind of donut a Pfannkuchen anyway.
Pfannkuchen, okay.
Yeah. So the whole jelly donut story is just this persistent, kind of silly urban legend that refuses to die.
Good to get that straight.
Yeah.
So beyond the words themselves, how much was it Kennedy's delivery, his presence?
Oh, huge. The charisma, the conviction, and seeing the wall right there, it all fed into it. The reaction from the crowd was, well, electric doesn't even cover it.
It felt supported again.
Completely. Like someone powerful was finally standing up for them. You can imagine the feeling. Relief, pride, maybe even defiance.
What about the Soviets? They couldn't have been happy.
No, they weren't thrilled, obviously. But Kennedy was smart. He actually gave a second speech later that day, much calmer, more diplomatic.
Balancing act.
Exactly. Show the moral conviction, rally the allies, but also keep the diplomatic channels from completely freezing over. But that main speech, it's still seen as maybe the key moral statement of the Cold War. The ambition wasn't military, it was moral leadership.
Okay, so we've had military ambition, rhetorical ambition. Let's move to 1976. Another June 26.
And another kind of ambition entirely. Concrete and steel this time.
The CN Tower in Toronto. Reaching for the sky, literally.
Yeah.
What was the driving force behind building something that massive?
It was actually twofold. There was a very practical problem.
Okay.
Toronto's skyline was growing fast, lots of new skyscrapers, and they were actually blocking radio and TV signals for people in the city.
So the tower was basically a giant antenna.
In part, yes, a communications tower to get those signals up above the new buildings. But it wasn't just practical.
There's more to it.
Oh, yeah. It was also about national pride. Canada wanting to make a statement, you know?
Yeah.
To show itself as a modern, capable, ambitious nation. It was symbolic.
Building tall is a symbol of progress. We see that a lot.
Definitely. So it served both needs. Better TV reception and a giant national icon.
And the engineering must have been incredible for the mid-70s.
Truly groundbreaking. They used some really innovative techniques. That Y-shaped base, for example, for stability against wind.
Right, wind must be a huge issue that high up.
Huge. And they used something called the hydraulic slipform method. Basically pouring concrete continuously as the forms moved upwards. It let them build incredibly fast.
Slipforming, okay.
Yeah, and the whole design had to account for insane forces. Wind, lightning, even just the immense weight of the structure itself, pushing engineering limits all the way. 553 meters tall.
And wasn't there a story about a helicopter? A really big one?
Yes, Olga. That's a great anecdote.
Olga the helicopter?
That was its name, yeah. It was a Sikorsky sky crane, brought in from the US, actually. They needed to lift the final pieces of the antenna into place.
Way up at the top.
Exactly. And Olga did it. It hoisted those massive sections up there. What could have taken months with a traditional crane, Olga finished in about 3.5 weeks.
Wow. That's impressive. A symbol of ambition in itself, just getting it finished. But building something that huge, that visible, in the middle of a city, did people protest? The whole NIMBY thing, not in my backyard.
You know, it's interesting. There were criticisms. Some people called it like a finger challenging the gods, that kind of thing. Aesthetic complaints.
A bit over the top.
Maybe. But the location helped avoid major protests. They built it on old railway lands, kind of abandoned industrial space.
Ah, smart move. No one's backyard, really.
Pretty much. And by the time it opened, June 26, 1976, the excitement was massive. Huge crowds, people queuing for blocks just to go up. It became a source of pride very quickly.
And it's been successful ever since.
Hugely. Still draws, like 2 million visitors a year? It paid for itself in only 15 years, which is incredible for a project that size.
And it held the record for the world's tallest freestanding structure for ages, right?
It did. For over 30 years, it's still an undeniable icon for Toronto, for Canada. And recognized by engineers, the ASCE, as a modern world wonder, a real triumph of that ambition to build higher.
So let's pull these threads together then. Fleurus, Kennedy in Berlin, the CN Tower, all June 26th, all totally different contexts.
Right, but when you step back, you see that connection, that theme we talked about. Fleurus in 1794, that was about military survival, using technology to gain the ultimate high ground, the birth of air power driven by, existential pressure.
Ambition born of necessity.
Exactly. Then Kennedy, 1963, that's the ambition to lead morally, to use words to inspire and defy oppression in the Cold War, standing tall, rhetorically.
Okay.
And then the CN Tower, 1976, that's the ambition to push physical limits, to build something monumental, shaping a city's identity and a nation's image, literally reaching upwards.
So Fleurus, Berlin, Toronto, it really is all about that relentless human drive, that insatiable ambition to rise, conquering skies, asserting ideals, building landmarks.
Yeah, using the sky itself in different ways as the stage for that ambition.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does it mean that we keep looking upwards, that the sky becomes this arena for human dreams and struggles? And where does that drive take us next?
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more history daily.